just like the sea. You'd think the sea was the sky. That's it. We come from the sky. A longing for the sea filled my heart. The sea is a wonderful place, like the sky. Blue, completely blue, like a mirror positioned so that it will reflect the sky. You cannot tell if it's the blue of the sea or the blue of the sky. They're both endless. And when you look away, far away towards the horizon, you can see the sea reaching up to the sky, and the one becomes entwined with the other in such a way that it's impossible to tell the sea from the sky. It's good to live in this endless marine expanse, to travel wherever you want to, not like here on the land, surrounded everywhere by mountains, and where your heart is always tense. Even when you're in the middle of a great plain or a vast desert, your heart is tense. You're happy to see the sky because it reminds you of the sea and of your desire to return there. Even though you've never seen the sea, you know that's where you come from. Life is difficult on terra firma, especially in these times of war and insecurity. It's hard to keep on going, especially when the conditions are so difficult. As far back as you can remember, the enemy has always been powerful, always armed to the teeth, whilst we others have been weak, armed only with ancient weapons. The only thing that matters here is war and flight. Attack and then flee. You set up an ambush, and when the enemy arrives, suspecting nothing, you spring out of your hiding place, attack and then flee. And if the enemy patrols in jeeps, then you prepare a trap for them at the side of the road. And when they arrive at the scene of the crime, you leap out, throw a hand grenade in the jeep, and there's the rattle of machine gun fire, and then you flee. And before the enemy in confusion realize what is happening, you're back in your safe place. And if you find out that the enemy don't go on patrol, or aren't preparing to attack themselves, then you find their base and you start to attack with rockets and flamethrowers, with 82mm cannons, with mortars, and then you flee. It's the only way to fight an enemy that's stronger than you. But it's very difficult to escape from an enemy of this kind. In the mountains you can hide, conceal yourself behind rocks, take refuge in caves and passages in the mountains, and find flight in any one of the thousands of narrow crevices in the valley. When the enemy finally finds out in which direction you fled, you will have found safety. You will even have got over your tiredness and will be ready for a fresh assault. This kind of skirmish drives the enemy mad, to such a degree that it brings out the animal in them, and like an injured wolf which attacks everything that moves, it begins to bomb villages, taking their inhabitants prisoner. But it's not like that for us. If it had happened like that, it might have been fine, but in our region, there are no mountains, and it's very difficult to wage war. If you look out over our region, you can see all the way from one end of the plain to the other end. The only thing which stands out, far away in the distance, is a chain of mountains which reflects the azure blue of the sky. War is very difficult to wage in such an area. There's not the tiniest hiding place apart from a few isolated trees that would hardly give adequate protection to a sparrow. And the ravens, well, that is to say, when you're on the run, no matter how far you are from your enemy, he only has to take up a firing position, find you in his sights, and pull the trigger. Click. Even if you reach the other end of the plain, the bullet flies, and talap. It hits you in the back, knocking you to the ground. At that moment, I hit the ground, my rifle landing a few yards away. A bullet has hit me in the shoulder. I feel a pain that's throbbing there, slowly spreading to the rest of my body. Perhaps the wound will not be so serious. I lie there, my back on the ground. I can see the sky. It is blue, very blue. And once again I am carried toward the sea, towards underwater worlds. It was a wonderful world under the water, like a world of fairy stories, like the stories my mother told me. A dream city with stone-built houses along paved streets and green plants here and there like small trees in real gardens. I want so much to feel that one of those houses belonged to me, that I could go in and the red fish swam from one street to the next and then turned round and looked at me. Will you please take me with you? The fish turned and looked surprised at me. Where to? Out to sea. I want so much to go with you. Way out to sea. The fish swam away without taking me, without answering me. It sped away, disappearing amongst the stones, and then a hand touched my shoulder. When I pulled my head up from the water, I saw it was my mother. Why did you have your head so far under the water? Why won't you let me play with the fish? You're always playing with the fish. You'll end up turning into a fish. Come on, before you drown. Daria was still standing in the same place, staring at me. My mother began to go. I ran after her. Mother, where am I from? She turned round and looked at me with surprise. What are you talking about? Go and play with the other children. I'd just like to finish with this very short one from Benny Anderson. It's about the Danish language, and I hope it also polishes a bit on the reputation of Danes as being a slightly racist nation. It's about the Danish language. And the language I sing and speak is woven together with words from the whole world, not only from German and English and French. No, listen to my Greenlandic. Anolak, kayak, tupilak, or Turkish, yogurt, kava, Chinese, chai, Mexican, tomato, Australian, boomerang, kangaroo, South African, apartheid. Oh. I could go on, and so I shall. Japanese, kimono, karate, Malayan, bamboo, Hindi, bungalow, pajamas. I could repeat them in my sleep. Words from all over this revolving globe meet in my marvellous mouth, and each time I pronounce them, they sound more and more Danish. My shirt is from India. My shoes are from Italy. My car is from Japan. My watch is from Switzerland, or was it Hong Kong? But in the midst of all this, I am so thoroughly Danish. The whole world gathers in me and is perfectly blended. Sesame, sesame, open sesame. Or is it I who am sesame? At any rate, I will open up.